All right, so the first thing you're going to need to do is get into Aware, and when you get into Aware, you are going to want to go to the Assessments tab, okay? I borrowed a teacher's account here so that you can see what it should actually look like. On the Assessments tab, you will likely only have a couple of options here. If you are a department chair, you might have a campus level ability here as well. The first thing you need to know about tests when, as a teacher, you're creating them is that you need to be a part of a team. In order to do that, you go down here, create a new team or edit a team if you've already got a team. I'm going to go ahead, it looks the same basically either way, but I'm going to create a new team. I would name it, we'll go with that. Don't need to have a description necessarily. Next. Okay, team's done. Finish the wizard. Here's the team. Current members, it's only this teacher whose account I'm using. All I have to do to add staff is click on the Add Staff button, click in the box here, and I'm going to add myself. Okay, if I spell it correctly and do the search, it should find me. Then all I have to do is select staff, and now I'm a member of this team. And you would go forward until you had all the members of your team, all the people that would be giving that same test as a member of your team. I'm going to go ahead and delete this team because I don't think this teacher probably wants a Justice League team. Okay, so that's how you would create a team, and I'll show you in either at the end of this session or a little bit later why you need to have that. The next thing I want to do is I want to create a new test. So I have a couple of options here. I can create one blank, I can copy an existing one, rarely do we ever use that, and a new key. So if you've got a paper test and you just want the data in Aware, this would be a good option where you're just going to enter the key, then the students take the test on paper and later go in and enter all that data into the computer. So that's another option. Create a new test from zip files, not very prevalent in the district right now. There are a few services that we have that will allow you to import from them in a zip file. For right now, we're going to go ahead and create a new blank test. So I'm going to click on that. I have two options, standard assessment or rubric assessment. Today we're going to look at the standard assessment. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to name it. Okay, I need to choose my subject area. Let's say I'm doing math today, and we'll do 11th grade. Right here, I can set values so that my data at the end reflects this. So if I say you need a 70 to be approaching grade level, okay, you need a 80 to be meeting grade level, and master's grade level is going to be 95. Okay, whatever you want to set, that's up to you. The test type, you can choose right here. Not a lot of options because this is not a department chair, this is a teacher, so test type is teacher test for right now. I need to choose a course. She's only got the option of this one course because she's a 4th grade teacher. Normally you would choose your own there. I'm going to click Generate Test. All right, so now I'm at the main landing page. Things to note is that it is pending currently. It means it's not ready to be delivered, so that students will not see it, teachers will not see it to deliver it. If I want to alternate lettering, meaning that for multiple choice I've got A, B, C, D, and then F, J, F, G, H, J, there we go. And then if I want to allow the students to see the test summary when they're finished, which I think you would probably want to do so they can reflect on it, though it's something you need to be cautious of as well if you're giving it multiple periods so that students can't share data. All right, so it defaults onto the question page. So I'm going to go ahead and create a question. To do that, I go ahead and click on the plus, add new item. I'm going to choose item. This one is going to be, let's do a numerical response since I chose math. To add a standard, I click here. I choose from my 4th grade math standards because this is a 4th grade teacher. I can also do a filter if I'm looking for something specific. These do not look like math standards to me. Here they are. Okay, so I scroll down until I find my math standards and what I'm looking for. This is pulling a lot more standards than it should be right now, but let's go with this. Okay, that's how I add the standard. If there's a secondary standard to this question, I click here and add another one. Most people are not using complexity or depth of knowledge right now, but it is an option if you set it up ahead of time. And then you can add weight to each question if something should be worth more than another question. Fixed decimal point, just like you would think. Here, if I have fixed, there will be 4 spots for them to put in before the decimal point. They will need to enter 3 after the decimal point. If the question might be negative, you might want to turn that on. You can also do floating, where they get 7 total columns and they choose where the decimal point goes. Okay, again, check mark for the negative values. Here's my question. It is whatever numbers, right? And my answer, or whatever it may be. Okay, I click create. Now I've got a question. All right, so it's that easy. I just keep adding questions. I click here, add another item. I have these different choice types. Selected response would be multiple choice. Constructed response would be like a written response. Numerical we just saw. And the other one is a resource. So if I put in a resource is usually going to be something like a reading passage. It might be a diagram, whatever it may be. Let's just say in this example that I have a graph, okay, that they need to interpret since this is a math test. I can put text in here, but you'll notice I can also put in pictures. I did not have anything prepared, so let's see what we're going to run into. Downloads, and let's do, well, we'll just pick a wallpaper. Why not? Okay. So I'm going to choose it. Oop, I did choose it. Dang it. Insert. Let's see if it'll go. Oh, it didn't allow me to choose that one. Okay, normally this would be a graph, but just for the sake of creating and not being specific here, I could put a graph in there. Now, let's say this graph is in here, and I've got a question I want to add to it. I've got a couple different ways to do it. If I add another question from down here, and let's do a selected response this time, multiple choice or multiple selection. If I had more than one that was correct, I'm going to leave it multiple choice. Here's my question, at what point, yada yada, right? I'm going to then, this is, let's say, A. If I wanted to give an explanation as to why that's correct, because they get to see the summary at the end, I could put it in there. I obviously want it to be more than one choice, so B, add response. I'm not going to bother to continue filling out. So I've got 4 choices, and let's say that this is the correct one. That's how I mark it, by clicking on it. If for some reason I feel like I've done C too many times in a row, I can move the answer choices around here. Okay, so I've got my question, I've got my 4. Okay, the thing I want to do now, is I want to link this to that resource, because this is supposed to be a question related to that graph. So I'm going to click on the little paperclip here, and I'm going to link it to my graph, and click update. Okay. The other way that I can do that is anything that's in this same white area here that has a plus allows me to add something that will already be linked to this resource. So if this were a reading passage or some sort of a diagram or something they needed to reference for several questions, this would be something important to do. And the reason that's important to do is because when the students get to look at the problem or the prompt, okay, so here's question 1, right? Here's question 2. Now you'll notice I've got this resource over here that they're using to answer any questions that are associated with it. Okay, so that's why you may want to link those things. So let's say that I've added more questions, I've linked more things, I don't need to spend more time on that. There are a lot of other options up here that I need to deal with. So if I go back to general, here's where I can make some changes if I accidentally picked the wrong grade level or had done something different than I wanted to. If we met as a team and said, hey, we want to change the levels that we have deemed to be what they are. And if I want to add instructions at the top of the test for the students, I can deal with that all here. Okay, we've looked at questions a little bit here. Here's the layout. This is what it would look like if it was printed. The difference basically is that the elementary is going to be larger font, larger text, more space on the page for them to work. The secondary just shrinks it down a little bit. So that's the biggest difference. And then if you want to print, this will kick it out to a PDF. You'll notice also that it saves every time I make a change, so I don't have to worry about that, although it seems to be locked up now, which is not good. Still saving. Interesting. It's not going to let me get a hold of anything. Try refreshing here. Okay. So that's the test booklet and the layout page. The test key, if I needed to go in and change something, I can do that. You can also see that these are linked because this is set within here. I can also drag to reorder the questions and things from here just like I could on the question page. Administration, this one's important. If I'm going to have them use a Scantron only and not allow it to be interactive, I would click here. However, if I make it interactive, I still have the option to print a bubble sheet or a Scantron. This is the student login. We also have a shortened one, and you have a way to copy that directly when you get to the test delivery. We're not going to talk about that in this section, though. If you needed to turn on the calculator, it's here. If you want them to be able to see their submitted responses before they turn in the test at the very end. And if you want the questions to be scattered so that students can't be looking over each other's shoulders, they will get them in a different order, though anything connected to a resource will remain connected to that resource. If text-to-speech, if you have a student that has text-to-speech available to them, you can change this to specific or to allow the student to choose. And then we also have lockdown browser, which is something you can turn on. Just be aware of how that works, and we'll do another session on that. So that is the first little tab here on administration. So I'm going to leave it on online testing. Okay, so I've got that kind of set up the way I want. The next thing I want to do is I want to share with my team. Okay, otherwise it's I'm giving this test and I'm getting this data. I cannot use it with the rest of my collaborative team to look at the results. So I'm going to share with the team. I'm going to share it with the 4th grade math team. And you'll notice right here, now it says convert to team test. It also says common unit assessment. So I have the ability to change this to another type of available assessment should I like. I'm going to say that this is a common unit assessment on our campus. And I'm going to click here to convert test to team test. Now all of the teachers on my team have access to this. Okay, so that's the basic test creation. The last thing that I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to make the test active. So if I'm happy with everything and we're getting ready to deliver it, I can go ahead and change this to active. All right, so now I've got an active administration. Now I can set the dates. When do I want it to be available? Okay, I'm going to leave this on today's date, and I'm going to change the end date because I like to leave it open for students to be able to review, but typically only to like the end of the 9 weeks. So I'm just going to put it until they're back. Okay, so now there's a test available to the students for me to launch. If I wanted to put this in Schoology or something like that, I can go ahead and copy this URL right now, and then I can place that in Schoology so the students have easy access to it. This is static, it doesn't change. We have a bit.ly that's shortened that I will show you in the next one when you're ready to launch. So that's the first step in our test creation.